Hi, today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about manifestation determinations and best practices for school psychologists. So, as a school psychologist, one of our responsibilities that has the potential to make a huge impact on a student, their educational future, and therefore their future period is being part of a team that conducts manifestation determinations. This is a review process which main objective is to determine whether a student's misbehavior is a manifestation of his or her disability and therefore determines if the student can be expelled, they'll be kept in place, or have another change in placement. The manifestation determinations really protect the students and the schools and districts. I am going to talk about what happens before the manifestation determination review takes place, and then some best practices to use that can help keep you as a practicing school psychologist and your district out of legal trouble, and to make the best decisions you can for the well-being of the student that is at the center of all of this. So one of the first things to do when a child with a disability or suspected disability, and I say suspected disability because if a child is suspected by either a teacher or a parent to need special education or has been referred to you, then they are also protected under this process. So when one of these children is disciplined, we need to have a manifestation determination review if there are three things we would look for. Number one was the student removed from school, so suspended for more than 10 consecutive days, so not 9 days or 10, but more than 10. Number two was the student suspended from school for more than 10 cumulative days with a pattern. So this can be 2 days here, 4 days suspended there, another 6 days here, with the suspensions being due to similar behaviors. And number three was the student carrying a weapon, knowingly carrying or using illegal drugs, and or inflicting bodily injury to another. And this could be at school or school function. If so, the IEP team can choose an alternative setting for the student to go up to 45 days without first determining if the behavior was a manifestation of their disability. So if the answer was yes to the first two questions, if they have been suspended for 10 consecutive days or 10 cumulative days with a pattern of behavior, then a manifestation determination must take place within 10 days of the removal. So what's going to happen during the manifestation determination review? You, as a school psychologist, will be part of the team, which consists of a district representative, the parents, and anyone else that the parent and the school agree upon. Now, the IEP team is not required participants in this review process, which some find problematic. We'll talk a little bit about that more in a minute. So during that manifestation determination review process, the team is going to look at data. They're going to gather data, including current FBAs, school record reviews, previous psych evaluations, current IEPs, observations of the student, and any other relevant material that the team deems to be relevant. The information that is collected will be used to determine two questions. The manifestation determination review process used to be more complex, but due to the changes that IDEA 2004 made, the team only needs to determine two things. Number one, is there a direct relationship between the conduct in question and the student's disability? And number two, was the IEP implemented appropriately? Now, looking back at IDEA 1997, the team had to look into whether or not the IEP was implemented and also if the IEP itself was appropriate for the student to begin with. So this is another area that some find problematic. They view this new two-question approach as too simplified. Once these questions have been answered, the team can make decisions from there. And there is a flow chart that shows exactly which steps would be taken. Depending on the outcome of the manifestation determination, you would follow these steps here. And like I previously mentioned, there are people who do not like the more simplified process that is now used for manifestation determination reviews. Politics can often come into play with teachers, principals, and other school officials that may not fully understand the laws and may just want what they view as a problematic kid out of their school. So this process is more subjective to some. They view it as more subjective than objective, especially when you think about the fact that the disabilities that we are qualifying these students under all have socially constructed definitions. Many of the disabilities have no way of being proven medically. So many believe that the manifestation determination review process is flawed and inherently objective instead of subjective. So there are parents across the nation every day that are appealing these decisions made in manifestation determination reviews. Many of these appeals, which come with their own guidelines that must be followed, never make it to the big court decisions that we hear about. but they are happening. So aside from making sure to follow the timelines, all of the laws that are in place, there are some best practices that should be followed to make sure you are in line with the laws and ethics in our field. So the very first one that I will mention is trying to prevent or, the manifestation determinations from happening to begin with. So taking preventative action. You can do this by creating positive behavior plans for all students with disabilities that need them. You can keep great documentation, always keep great documentation of implementing these plans and their outcomes. That can come in handy if you get to the manifestation determination review process. RTI systems are a great framework for this type of documentation and positive behavioral plans for that to be successful. And then again, just keeping that great documentation, I can't stress that enough, on interventions and the student's progress can guide further interventions or modifications to behavioral plans needed to help possibly keep the students on track and out of trouble. And then make sure that the behavior expectations and their consequences are well known and understood to the students. And that should be, the principal should be involved with that the entire school, which is where RTI really comes in handy. A big part of preventing the process is creating and keeping relationships between home and school as well. That is one of our ethics, and it helps to lower the need for manifestation determination reviews. Expectations are clear this way between all involved parties, and research has shown leads to better student outcomes. Another best practice is to be an integral part of the MDR team and to keep up on trainings and any new laws and cases that may come about. Ultimately, a huge part of our role is to advocate for the students, and this helps us to do that. As part of the team, we are unique in that we are kind of between the world of psychology and education. We have beneficial insights that another team member may not have. And in that way, we can ensure that these viewpoints are shared with team members. Another best practice to use is always withholding our ethical standards and best practices. So making sure that we are being culturally responsive to the students during this process is key. So research shows that there is a discipline gap that exists and that African American and Hispanic students are disciplined more often. So making sure and advocating for a diverse staff is one way that we can combat this. And as a school psychologist, something we can advocate for. Being developmentally appropriate with discipline is another best practice that should be used. So immediate feedback and positive behavioral supports are encouraged. As mentioned before, politics can play a part in the MDR decisions, even though this is not best practice and potentially against the law. So removing a student, especially with a disability, can have lifelong impacts on them. So ensuring that the team understands this and is using a non-biased lens is often falls to be the duty of us as school psychologists to carry out. Lastly, as a school psychologist, understanding how this process is flawed can help ensure the process is as objective as possible. Even if you have followed the law and used the best practice guidelines when conducting a manifestation determination review, you can still find yourself and the district in due process proceedings in court. It is a parent's legal right to appeal and challenge the decisions you've made, but if you have dotted all your I's and crossed your T's, you can assure that you are protected and will be able to sleep better at night knowing you did what was right for the student in question and your school. And I'm just going to share a couple of the most recent cases that I found. If you want to go ahead and take a look at it, and if you would like to email me for information on these cases or just the links to them, feel free. My email is at the beginning of this presentation. Thank you for watching.